Okay,
Man.
so who are we?
Oh, we're three crusty old burners who have got like 35, 40 years of going to Burning Man between us.
Hi, shiny new burners. I'm Rex.
Slip into our audio VAG.
I love it. Welcome to the Audio VAG, the Virgin Acculturation Guide. And this is the name that we have stolen from Dove from Portalburn. Thank you, Dove. You are the best at acronyms. So you are now listening to an acculturation guide built for you, Burning Man virgins.
Hi, virgins.
We're going to tell you everything you need to know to make your first burn comfortably weird.
This is a really weird thing you've chosen to do.
Howdy, virgins. I'm Rex.
I'm D-Day,
And I'm Beth.
and we are representatives of the Accuracy Third podcast, an oral history of Black Rock City.
This year, we've decided to make for you a Virgin Acculturation Guide. We're going to give you a little insight into what it is you're getting yourself into when you come to Burning Man. Now, what we're making here is not a survival guide. We're not going to tell you how to do your Burning Man. We've already made that. You can look back through our podcast history and find it, or you can just knuckle down and read the paper and ink one that Burning Man puts out. It's kind of like what we did, only less narky and drunk.
When you say we've already done that, you mean we've already done that poorly.
Well, I mean,
We're an
starts
evolving
strong.
document.
What this document is a message from the Burning Man culture to our newest members about what our culture is and how we invite you to participate in it. So let's just jump into it. The first and foremost thing that we're going to address is really what it is you're getting yourself into. What Burning Man is. Burning Man is an event that evolved on its own out of some trips the Cacophony Society took to the desert back in the 80s. The Cacophony Society is a Bay
Bunch of
Area...
professional weirdos.
Yeah, that's it.
They are the reason why we have things like flash mobs, why we have things like improv everywhere. These are people who are doing that shit long, long before.
And they didn't always do it for an audience. Sometimes they just did it for each other and created a temporary autonomous zone where the rules of the society outside of it need not apply.
And what Burning Man is one of those temporary autonomous zones that just kind of kept repeating.
Okay, guys, what is a temporary autonomous zone?
It's an area in which, for a moment, the people occupying it discard all of the extraneous rules and norms put upon them and decide amongst themselves how they're going to interact as people. It's a concept pioneered by the writer Hakim Bey, and I encourage anybody to look into the book called Temporary Autonomous Zone.
I would describe it as the imaginary space that is underneath the sheet in the mattress fort in your living room.
That's great. That is absolutely a temporary autonomous zone.
I would describe it as summer camp. A place where all of a sudden the structures and rules that you live with day to day are completely different. I wouldn't say absent, especially if we're talking about Burning Man.
We have laws now.
Yeah.
Look them up.
But totally different, with a chance to restructure not only your relationship to other people and society, but your relationship with yourself.
And that's what Burning Man really became. It became a reoccurring space in which people were free to experiment with self-expression, with group dynamics, with how to be people to one another.
How to be people to one another?
With one another.
At one another.
Sometimes.
You can people at one another pretty hard at Burning Man.
You certainly may.
You often do.
So once the event had evolved into something like its current state, 10 principles were outlined that were not the rules by which we form our society, but a succinct description of the society that we had created.
What we're trying to get at, I'm pretty sure, is the idea that the 10 principles aren't prescriptive on our culture. They aren't what someone up above has decided Burning Man is about. What they are is representations of what Burning Man naturally became. When you think about the 10 principles, especially if you've never been, the 10 principles are explaining what the culture is, not dictating what it is.
So having said all that, what we're about to present to you is a collection of people's favorite 10 principles. The podcast that we make, Accuracy Third, is a series of interviews with people who attend Burning Man about their Burning Man experience. And over the past year, we've been asking people what their favorite of the 10 principles is and why and what it means to them. And this is a collection of their responses.
Because I get my platform. I have an entire platform on radical inclusion. Do you have that so we can read it word for word? Anyone may be a part of Burning Man. We welcome and respect the stranger. No prerequisites exist for participation in our community. Correct. Once you walk through the gate, you're not a stranger. So my theory is you're no longer a stranger, you're now a citizen of Black Rock. And as a citizen, you are pretty much required to follow the 10 principles. And if you don't, I don't have to welcome you because you are not a stranger, you are a part of our community that sucks.
So it's not that you don't support radical inclusion, but you believe that radical inclusion ends at the front gate.
Well,
once you're inside the party.
Yeah, as far as when I say, you still should be included as a member of the community. And if you're not participating in the community, then I'm not going to welcome you. You're not a community member. You're making that choice. I'm saying I am welcoming you with all my heart, and I want everyone to come. And when you when you get in that gate, you're now a citizen. I still welcome you. And you now have to do all the things that citizens of Black Rock do. And if you don't, then I don't welcome you personally. And I don't really think some regionals should or Burn should reckon. I think we should think about what does inclusion mean, and when do we say yes and when do we say no.
I've always felt, since I set foot on the playa, that Burning Man is like the cultural epicenter of the planet, where the most amazing ideas come because you've mixed all these weird ingredients and shaken it up. The more variety and the more kinds of people can come there and be cracked open by it and share whatever magic they have inside of them, the more powerful the event is. It's a huge, networking event. There's a story that somebody once told me. One of our campers once went out in the playa and met one of the original burners from, the beach, who told him a story of how Burning Man started, which was not something that I've heard really anywhere else, but I've been sharing it a lot. And in a nutshell, when the artists left the beach and went out to the desert to create what we now know as Burning Man, they did not arrive at an empty desert. They arrived at a place that had a bunch of anarchists and a bunch of survivalists and a bunch of ravers. And these four groups came together, and they weren't compatible. And it was that mix that created this thing that nobody could have predicted.
The thing with gifting, what this one has led to, I remember this guy came to camp and I fixed his bike, and I didn't need or want anything from him, but he had stopped at an Army-Navy store and bought 300 of those little tiny worthless can openers.
P38s.
Yeah, that aren't worthless if you're starving. But none of us were starving hard enough to need them. And so he was giving those out, and he also bought a roll, 200 feet of pink cord, and was making necklaces out of these things, which was great and all. But that was his entire, how can anyone open this can? Yeah, I'm going to buy 200 of these things. And it wasn't even, he even told me that it wasn't like he got stuck and was starving and didn't have a can opener. And there wasn't even a story. It was just I went to the store and they had these, and these were the cheapest, and they had 200 of them, so I bought them all. And
that's terrible.
But I got all sorts of stories like that where people felt, I got a gift. Well, like the candy necklaces. Well, let's just buy 1,000 candy necklaces and carry them around. Versus, just go around, as tell a joke, volunteer, help out someone. You don't have to have a trinket to drop off at every spot. Go work a shift someplace. And that's, but they feel like they need to sprinkle the gift far and wide to prove that they've gifted.
Well, and in our general culture, a gift is so specifically a physical thing that people don't come in thinking, I can gift my time.
Yeah.
I can gift my skills, my talent, my presence.
Right. And I'd always, if it came up, if people asked, I'd always help them see that. Give them a dozen other options and say, these are all really worthwhile things to do.
That's something I kind of struggled with myself as somebody who spent a lot of time engaging with the event. I messed around with physical gifts. I've tried to put together some art that was just terrible. And it wasn't until I really threw myself into volunteering that I felt like I was really fulfilling that principle, that I was really gifting of myself, and I was gifting the thing that I was good with, which is managing things.
Right.
You said it earlier, volunteering is like the best thing you can do with your time out there.
Well, running my bike shop, fixing. At our peak, I didn't keep track, but thousands of bikes. I still meet people to this day who say, "Oh my God, you saved my burn. You made my day. They remember that time that I helped them." Still, we shut down the bike shop 10 years ago. They still remember that.
Well, gifting was one that I didn't think was as important as it is.
It's funny because that's what your camp does.
I know. It's true. It's like, but I just thought, we give people free stuff. People love free stuff, That's the simple way to look at it. But it goes many layers deeper when we talk about within our camp, the gifting people the excuse to express themselves a little bit more, to go out and have a different burn experience, allowing them the space to get weird and that kind of thing. So when I was listening to all these talks about people doing activism, civil service, I was like, wow, that's a big gift. Is our gift that great? Like, we're not saving the world. We're just dressing people up weird. But it is an integral part of the whole situation, and removing that mask over the top of commodification and taking money out of the equation. They can have that real human interaction. So I think that I learned at this conference that gifting was maybe more
than just
yeah.
Fimo necklaces.
Yes, more than I thought, because sometimes I don't really want another necklace. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, mine would be like the gifting and decommodification. And I think it's so important to stress because one of the things that we've seen as of late, the changes in the Burning Man culture, is that people are starting to take that to mean, oh, free stuff will be provided for me when I get there, rather than like we all need to take responsibility over having enough to provide to one another so that everyone gets their needs met, right? And that's a very similar thing that happens when people talk about like the gift economy as a counter to the current economic models or capitalism, whatever. People are like, oh, is that just a free-for-all where everyone's expected to like get free stuff? And you're like, no. When we talk about the gift economy, it's inherent that like we are creating reciprocity with one another, and we're actually recognizing one another, right? So if I see that you're someone who gives back to the rest of the community, I want to give to you. Or if you're someone that has given to me in the past, I might want to give back, or I pass it on to somebody else. It's not just, oh, I'm just going to give anybody anything willy-nilly. There's this aspect of reciprocity and recognition in the gift economy to make it work. So I really like that one. I think that's a really beautiful part of
seeing labor as a gift is something that is really transformative, because here we see labor as
a job?
Yeah, as
a necessity.
The thing you must do in order to continue your biological function on the planet.
Just something to exchange for money or for access to other resources.
For survival tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the gift economy is like it's an exciting container to be in a space where people are willing to just share their resources, and where they're willing to like just have open arms and invite people into their spaces with love and openness and freedom and fun. And I also just like absolutely adore that people can be as autonomous as they choose at Burning Man.
My favorite is being radically self-reliant.
So my favorite principle is radical self-reliance.
Yeah, why is that the most important one for you?
Because everything that you have control over is yourself. And so if you are able to exist everywhere and live everywhere and be the anchor for others who may not know how to go out there and exist out there and be the one that people rely on, you know, that's the ultimate, right? That's the ultimate human, the person that can take care of themselves and others and as many people as possible. Because it's a difficult world out there and we need strong solutionaries. It has to be acknowledged that it's a harsh environment in terms of many environments in the world, and that sets it apart from other festivals that are more safe. If you don't have enough water or food or shelter or goggles or warmth at any given time, you can feel like your basic survival is threatened. And indeed, if you were out there by yourself, it could be. But we are a society and we have our wonderful rangers, which are helping change best practices in the United States for law enforcement in terms of dealing with some of these like issues. And all sorts of beautiful people helping like make our society more utopic. You can come out like expecting that you want to like give in a certain way and or do whatever you want to do, but like it doesn't matter what you want to do. What matters is how you'll actually be able to survive in this environment and contribute to the society that you're, you know, participating in. Talk about dealing with difficult people. Like, life is about play, and you want to play with people and your surroundings. Not like fuck with them, but just like play with them. You know, you can't run up and hug a grizzly bear or a DPWer, right? Like, you gotta play with the individuals as they want to be played with. It's not about what you want to bring. It's about being realistically prepared for this harsh environment.
Yeah, if you want to be a part of and you want to be helpful to others and someone that other people can depend on, you have to have your shit handled first.
It is an experiment community. So talk to the people that you're with.
My favorite is being radically self-reliant. I think that going out to the desert every year, it's weird because it's like a vacation, but you're actually doing more work than you would be back home. But just the sense of being prepared and having everything you need or that you think you need, because when you're going to Burning Man, you realize that there are a lot of things you don't actually need to survive. And I just really enjoy like making sure I'm all packed up, making sure I have food with me and water and like everything I could possibly want. Just, I don't know, it's a great feeling of just being prepared out there and feeling like I could do anything in the middle of the desert.
I think radical self-expression.
You know, that's the one that for me sinks to the bottom, and so I'm always interested to hear from people who, not because I don't highly value it. It's
kind of a given.
Well, let's find out. Miles, are you one of those naked guys on Playa?
That's a different.
That would be me. At least once a burn. Yes.
Fair enough.
I think the self-expression, it's evolved every year. Finding out a little something new about myself, or trying on a different character, or like coming up with a different sort of way of approaching it. I think I've been, 10 times, so after a while, you do the same thing. You can get into a rut, surprising yourself and giving yourself freedom to go into the unknown.
I like that. Self-expression as experimentation with yourself,
Exactly.
as opposed to some sort of
I think
intense self-narrative.
It's been more of a internal quest than a external expression. So expressing myself has been more of well, who the fuck am I? What am I doing here? How am I? Who am I? What kind of reactions am I looking for? How do I want to play in this playground? Delving into that and being surprised and horrified is fantastic.
If you're not a little of both, you're not doing it fully.
Yeah. I tried on this character called Tasty Pickle. And,
Do tell.
And I was really getting into fermenting vegetables and making fermented pickles. And on the playa, having that salt.
Oh, it's the best.
Is the best. Yeah. Oh my God, the best. And so I would carry around, I had this leather satchel with this ball jar. You're not supposed to have glass, but safety third, right?
Right.
And I had this little sterling silver trident, which was like an escargot antique fork, you know? And I was typically dressed like a pan kind of character with a leather skirt and furry vest and some crazy headdress. And
we've met before.
And and I would go around and introduce myself as Tasty Pickle. And if they questioned me, then I would offer them to find out why.
You'd pull out your pickle.
I would instruct them to get down on their knees, close their eyes, and open their mouth. And I would give them a little taste of my Tasty Pickle. I can't tell you how many people who hate pickles said that my pickle was the best pickle they've ever had in their mouth. I turned pickle haters into pickle lovers. I mean, that self-expression, you delve into yourself and find odd and strange things inside.
Yeah, you do.
So
odd, strange, salty
and sometimes
things.
you get to put them in other people's mouths.
Hard to pick one, but I kind of consider civic responsibility and participation sort of to be the same thing. Civic responsibility being, if you don't participate, if you don't help build something better than what showed up before you got there, you're not going to have as good an experience. You have to consider that a lot of people have worked for a really long time to make this thing really beautiful, really special. This is not a festival for you to come up and show up and party and not contribute in some way that makes the event better, because you're going to leave feeling a lot emptier than you will if you participate, if you volunteer, if you get in on a project and build relationships with those people. I've heard some really brilliant references to the fact that's why the burning of the art is kind of symbolic, because it's not about the art. It's not that, oh, you built this beautiful thing and you burnt it. Well, it's not about the product. It's about the process, and that that civic responsibility of getting involved and the participation of being involved is what builds the relationships, which are ultimately what makes Burning Man a lot more special place, or a regional Burning Man event a lot more special place than most festivals that I've ever been to. I've had a community vibe before at other places, and yet it's never quite as intense and beautiful and nourishing to the heart, the soul, and the fiber of my being as these events.
So it's really it's buying in by putting in.
Buying in by putting in. That's a really good, succinct way to say it. I'm less succinct than you, but yeah, that would be. I would twinkle that yo is what we would say in my community. Twinkle that yo.
So Alexa is going to be talking about Leave No Trace. We wanted to jump in and say this because she doesn't actually mention the name of the principle that she's talking about.
Should I include a chunk of the Leave No Trace stuff from the DPW episode? Because that is also some of the more ardent, interesting Leave No Trace stuff we've heard about has been from the folks who clean up your shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll include a little bit of that. So you'll also be hearing Frisky Whiskey. She's awesome. She knows what it's like to fucking clean the playa, and you should listen to her.
Producing as little waste as possible is really exciting. On Friday, we were at the sustainability panel. Blue had told us that many years ago there used to be like 70 garbage dumpsters, and then it was down to like 12, and like last year there were 3 dumpsters of actually like throwing out trash from Burning Man, where like might have been like one big couch and like a few other things, but like going from like 70,000 people to have like just 3 dumpsters of trash, it's just like showing that this is possible to like teach people to be mindful of what they are producing and wasting, and like I think it's a really amazing concept. And I really hope that people beyond Burning Man take this into their life and like feel the impact of producing as little waste as possible in their daily experience outside of this one large event.
This includes things like when you abandoned your car that one time. We picked it up using the VR and threw it onto the back of the flatbed. We were talking about full theme camps being left behind. This is what picks up your full theme camp is Trash Train. These are the people that give you the red marks.
And that's
on the
not an
map.
encouragement to leave your whole theme camp because we have the
Please, dear
infrastructure
God,
to deal with it.
don't.
That is just that there are some assholes that we just have to deal with. Don't be that asshole.
Sadly.
Well, the first year of Trash Train, that was the year that the tuna guys left the mountain.
Oh, but I love the tuna guys.
And I do too, and they've made
We
up
don't
for
like
it
the
a
mountain.
lot since then. But they left the mountain, and circling the mountain was the piss jugs. So we got a whole bunch of them. I think it was close to 30 gallons in the 1-gallon jug containers. Boxed them all up and sent them from the Burning Man headquarters, COD, to the tuna guys.
Via the United States Post Office?
You legit ship them?
Wow.
Yep. COD, so they had to pay on delivery. And they were like, hey, it's a present from Burning Man.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I'm getting
They
a
sent
little
us a
verklempt.
big note saying they're sorry the next year.
Your last person who was out there decides that they're just going to leave their whole tent and their whole tent infrastructure behind. We get shade structures. We get broken stuff. I found a basketball hoop one year.
We also get some of those hard case tubs with lids full of poop.
The answer to what's in the bucket is always poop.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's always poop. Don't look in the bucket.
Don't
just
look
throw it
in
the
the bucket. Sweet Jesus.
Yeah, we'll get between 20 and 50 poop containers. And, dude, humans have to deal with that. Like, we have to fucking look at it and deal with it.
You have never seen anything so horrific as one of your crewmates coming back from dealing with poop.
And I would say if any of our 10 principles are prescriptive and not descriptive, it goddamn well better be leave no trace. That's no joke. You can be immediate or not out there, but you better pick up your fucking shit. That's not our land to fuck up. That is sometimes covered in water. There's some indigenous life there that we shouldn't be messing with. If when the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, come out after playa restoration, which is a very hard several weeks that people are just doing sweeps of the playa, picking up things, bending over, picking up tiny bits of glitter and feathers and garbage like that people left behind. If BLM gets a sample in several places where there's too much moop, matter out of place, we don't get to have our event on the playa anymore.
And this is the only principle where our standards are absolutely in line with the standards of society around us. The law requires us to leave no trace, and we require ourselves to leave no trace. This is a leave no trace event, and that is non-negotiable.
Which brings us to my favorite of the 10.
Please.
Which is participation.
Yes.
Participation. I think probably participation. I mean, that's for me is the, I mean, they're all important, but the thing that's really going to get it for you is if you're willing to participate and just dive into it, you know, and do something. For me, it kind of encompasses why I go. It's not about showing off or dressing up or observing, though to a certain extent all of that's in there.
Sure.
But it's also part of your participation. You know, when you're going to see stuff, it's about engaging with it, not about just looking at it, you know, that kind of thing. So I think for me that would be probably the biggest piece would be just to like, okay, just dive in. Just be open to what's going to happen and just let it happen, you know. Two of my sisters came out one year, the year of first home, and my one sister just got it, loved it. My other sister just couldn't, you know, and it was just because she couldn't let go what other people were doing, right? It's like she's had an issue with what other people were doing, and you can't do that at Burning Man. You have to be...
No, you got to do you.
You got to do you, right, exactly right. So it's got to be about you and your immersion in the event and kind of letting go of all of that and just to really, you know, be... And I think that for me, maybe that's the first step to participation. Isn't like building something, but it's more about just immersing yourself in the experience and letting it happen. That gets to immediacy. So, I mean, there's probably this place of...
I think the principles all kind of
cascade
overlap each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's actually really true too. So because in the immediacy and then gifting and it all kind of comes together, and then pick up your stuff before you leave, right? That's all.
Civic responsibility is participation.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Immediacy.
Right.
And it's all communal effort.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe that's why I think for me, participation is kind of
at the root.
The root, that's kind of the key one is join the fun, join the party.
In our regular day-to-day lives, we get into our ruts, and then when we go to the playa, there's limitless opportunities to get out of your box, do something else, even if that's just help the neighbor erect a tent or sing a song for your cocktail, or even those smaller interactions that happen. You know, if somebody doesn't walk into the phone booth to God, then they don't have that interaction.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get to have that opening up, that interaction, that flip, or whatever might happen for them. For me, it's about participation. Just say yes. Get in there. Do it. Help out. Be part of it instead of just letting it happen to you. Mm-hmm. A lot of our population comes to Burning Man to experience it and let it happen around them so that they can say they did that or something. I do feel responsible as an older burner to help the newer people understand that it's not a concert. It's not you buy your ticket and you come and you sit down and somebody does a show for you all week long.
There's nothing there if we don't take it.
Yeah.
Participation and immediacy. And also, I guess you could call it community, all that stuff.
Sure.
Interacting with people can be difficult at Burning Man in a just walking up to strangers way. Some people are good at it, some people not so good. And especially I find going into other people's camps, even if they have some cool thing and it's like, okay, they want you to come in, but it still feels a little weird. Yeah. So first year, there was this amazing group of, I don't know what they were called. They were faux Caltrans workers running around, blocking off streets, and their orange vests and putting cones down and directing traffic and blocking intersections and just fucking with people. You know, just the fake Burning Man road crew. And that was just their performance art.
I saw somebody doing, I don't know if it was the same group, but I saw a guy out sawhorses like 15, 20 feet apart in the Esplanade and had plunked a manhole cover down on the Esplanade and was just leaning against a shovel in between them.
A friend of mine I went out with that year was riffing on that and came up with the idea of the Black Rock City building inspectors.
Oh.
Now, he did not come back that year. I don't know if he came back later. We kind of lost touch. But I'm like, this is a great idea. And not only is it a fun thing to do, it is a fun way to get into people's camps and interact with people in a, you know, just kind of a, not just, oh, hi, I'm just kind of wandering in, how's it going, sort of way. So I would collect different groups of friends every year, and one of them made a awesome Black Rock City building inspector checklist inspection form. And it looked pretty official. He came up with a vaguely Burning Man official-ish looking logo, and, you know, it had our team name in big letters and stuff. And then when you looked down at it closely, you saw that the offenses were things like no running water, no alien landing beacon, too much / not enough use of duct tape, bored and vindictive inspectors, camp is nicer than ours. Just, you know, all these offenses to tag people with. But I would wear my nicest, cleanest button-up shirt I had left and a tie, and I would keep my radio just to make it look that much more legit, and some friends of mine, they would have like orange safety vests and stuff, and we would bike up, and usually people didn't notice that we were wearing, just biking up on these sort of Burning Man, hoser bikes. We'd get out and officiously stroll into people's camps and start inspecting them.
And what's this up here? Right. That junction.
Yeah. And so we'd tick off all the lists of offenses, and sometimes we'd make it clear that it was, the things we were doing, and sometimes we wouldn't. Often we would just mutter to ourselves and write things down. People would get really nervous because a lot of them thought that we were actually a real team come to inspect their camp.
The tensile strength of the plastics.
Exactly. And they'd say like, well, this is completely safe over here. This trampoline is totally wired up. And like, oh, we don't care about that.
Right.
Anything that had vaguely to do with public safety, we just completely ignored.
Yeah, no. Just leave that rebar in a pile. You don't actually even have to stake that in.
Right, exactly. And then we would staple the offense list up somewhere, and they would read it and start getting the joke. And we would make it clear that being petty civil servants, we were open to bribes. And so we were almost always able to get drinks or something from whatever camp we were visiting. We always made sure we had our cups.
Right.
Because you always have to bring your cup, or plastic wine glasses, the case may be. But it was just a wonderful way to participate, get to know people. I became friends with some of these people later. One of them, became like a guy who I had my tabletop gaming group with a decade later, and he gave me a cool patch and all that stuff. And just to participate in a creative way that was just not wandering around hoping something would happen. I condemned First Camp, condemned The Man a few times, condemned Thunderdome once. That was awesome, in the middle of the fights. And again, we all played along, so they actually had the DJ announce that I was coming down to condemn the dome. And so we had, hundreds of angry people on the dome shouting at me, and the punks, in the dome, like chasing me around the dome, and then I dove out. It was a really amazing way to participate, in a way that actually allowed me to connect with people in a different level.
Immediacy.
The 10th principle is actually the one that I try to call attention to the most, which is immediacy.
Probably immediacy, because I feel like, I've gotten really into like mindfulness and meditation and being present in the moment. It's something I struggle with. And so I feel that a lot of times, we're on our phones, or we were going to go watch Netflix instead of go out to this event or whatever. And I don't know why you would be doing that. So stop it. But it's kind of like that, just making sure that like you're not worried about what's going on over there. You're really being present in that moment, because if you spend all your time wishing and wanting you were somewhere else, or you're not living in that moment, then you're totally wasting your time. Like, your time's going to pass by anyway. Like, use it well.
What I'd like to do first is tell a story that maybe isn't a story that's out there about how the 10th principle of immediacy was created. The story of the creation of the 10 principles is out there in various dribs and drabs, but Larry says this in public all the time. It's just, they're descriptive, not prescriptive. And he's not just blowing smoke. What he means is that the reason the 10 principles were created is that the burgeoning community of regional groups around the U.S. wanted to start their own scenes, and they didn't have any particular way of explaining what's happening to the people in their communities and what the values were. And so they started to clamor for some kind of official line. The way that Larry Harvey responded to that call was to do research on the community and what its values were already, and come up with descriptions of them that were succinct enough to be listed, and also had a kind of rich interplay with each other. Any few principles could be in play at a given time, and some could be in conflict with each other. He was looking for a matrix within which to describe what was already happening out there. So the story is that he came out of the room with 9 principles and brought it to everybody else. And they said, Larry, you're not going to write a 10th commandment? And so he went back in the room. And what he came up with was immediacy. And immediacy was sort of the ephemeral one that binds them all together. So, I don't want to read the text of immediacy. A cliche way of putting it might be to live in the moment or to be present. But immediacy is not just about receiving what's happening to you. It's also about responding to the situation with everything you've got. This is the thing that's most fun about burners, and everybody knows it. Your wit is quicker, and your responses are
I'm not sure
funnier.
if your wit is quicker so much as everyone around you is so much slower than they normally are. They have been slowed down by the lack of living in a place that wants to support life.
I know you a lot, and your wit is not quicker out there.
That's totally fair. Whatever it is, like the threshold is lower for you to jump in.
Well, you're dying.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Every word you say matters more because you got to conserve like water and oxygen. But that quickness is what I think the sense of the word immediacy is. It's living on this edge of what's going to happen now, and being ready for it, trying as hard as you can to be ready for it. And like Beth just said, it's a lot harder to do out there sometimes for all kinds of reasons, environmental reasons. But I think that's why the playa trains us in immediacy and makes us all the quicker and weirder when we're not in that situation. That's the thing. Immediacy is the key that helps you be ready to respond with any of the other principles in any given situation. So that's why it's the key for me.
The principle that the three of us hold most dear in common is communal effort.
Communal effort is the one.
Communal effort.
Oh, that's the one we care about so much?
Yeah.
Oh.
What are you talking about? You go out there and lead a crew of people putting communal effort into it is what you do.
Yeah, but what I care about more is taking the brand names off of things and cutting up T-shirts and
all right, well, we won't
together.
speak for you.
Yeah, we won't speak for you. That's yours, dude. Communal effort is mine.
As it happens, Beth and I share a favorite principle. For us, it's communal effort.
I love this so much that this is what I do in my life. It is my job. And it's actually going out to Burning Man is renewing my faith in it as a positive thing. Because as a lot of you know, if you start doing something you love for work, it starts to wear on you and get you down and shit like that. What I do is I work with people and I make events. I make things that you can see and then that disappear. It's very similar to Burning Man, but then going to Burning Man for me is the reintroduction, the renewing my faith in communal effort. Because when you're out there, you're looking at everyone who is creating it. You get to be on the same team as all of these people to make something that is so much bigger and more detailed and fascinating than you can ever know, and to get to be a part of the group of people that is making it. And you're making it as a virgin you've never been before. Maybe you don't have any gifts, maybe you don't know how to be a part of it yet, but when you get there, you will be making it. And the whole city is created by us. So communal effort for me is sort of the heart, the linchpin, and it really renews my faith in it, because when I do it for work, I'm just like, meh. And then I go out there and I'm like, oh, right, we can build cities.
And for me, it was kind of the skeleton key for getting into the heart of the event. I've been going to Burning Man for a long time. This is going to be my 19th consecutive year.
Jesus Christ.
Waste of time and money.
A little bit. And I started fairly young. I was just 21. And I enjoyed the shit out of it for the first 3 or 4 years. It was the most amazing, mind-blowing experience I'd ever had. So different from everything else in the world. But I still kind of felt a little lost out there sometimes. I wasn't sure what to do with myself, how to really connect and have the kind of experience I saw people around me having. And then I started to volunteer. I volunteered a little for greeters.
You were a greeter?
Just for 1 year.
I don't want to talk about it.
Then I rangered for 7 years. I put together a theme camp with some friends, and that was pretty great. And then I moved over into the department I'm in now, where I'm putting together a big project with a lot of people, and I'm working tightly with this big group of people for a solid week, and the connections that I make with these people, the friendships, the experiences we share, it's like nothing else. It's like summer camp for adults.
Okay. After hearing both of those, that does sound a lot more important than including the brand on my car in an interesting way. I'm sold. I guess that thing that we do out there is like kind of the center of the event. Like you can't have the event or a society or a goofy city for 1 week that works without everybody working together toward the goal of that experience being awesome, because for one reason or another, a lot of people allow themselves to be better out there.
And in a way, communal effort is like a counterweight to radical self-reliance. We expect all the participants at Burning Man to handle their own shit. We expect you to bring everything you need. We expect you to be able to take care of yourself during the event. But because we're having all of these amazing self-reliant people come together in a communal setting, we can accomplish amazing things working together.
You can't plug a dike with only one thumb.
Okay.
I'm going to leave that joke just sitting there on the studio table. I mean,
that wasn't good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was terrible. Holy fuck. Okay.
I was so proud of it.
Yeah.
Well.
Day. I'm very impressed by your style of humor, where it's just you swing big, you swing hard, and you swing at everything.
Yes. Every so often it's going to connect, and then
And
he's going to knock
it
the
right out of the
right
park.
off that joke.
That's all I got. You want me to punt? Fuck you. You punt.
I can feel it when you touch me, baby. Know what's on my mind. And you must be thinking of me, 'cause we had a real good time. Well, I'm in love, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's what I call to say. Alright. Say that you just like me, baby. Ooh, yeah, give it to you anyway. Here's what I'm talking about.
That stuff.
Yeah.
Do we want to do the sex culture stuff?
Yep.
Okay. Do you mind if I introduce it?
Take the lead, baby.
Great. The one thing Beth is excited for.
This is a really important part of my experience with Burning Man, and for a lot of people's experiences with Burning Man, and it is something that is not directly addressed by the org in any way, shape, or form, which is fine. But in reality, Burning Man is a very sexual place. It is a place where adults go and do stuff, and there's a bunch of people wearing almost no clothing. It is a place where, people are fucking really sexy out there. Everyone is gorgeous, and it's wonderful. That means we have to pay closer attention, because all of a sudden we are outside of the way that we normally behave in our standard culture. So how do we handle sex and personal autonomy, attraction, and those types of things while we are in a situation where everything has been turned on its head?
Unclench and relax.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So what I want to talk about for just a second is what sex positive actually is. Sex positivity is not everyone should fuck because that will make us all better. That's there's this weird myth around sex positivity. Quickly want to say what sex positivity actually is. Sex positivity is not about the sex that you do or do not have. Sex positivity is a political belief that consenting sex is fine, that no matter what the dynamics of it, that it is an okay thing, whether you have it or not, whether you're asexual or whatever, that any relationship to sex can be a healthy relationship to sex.
Now, Beth,
yeah,
that sounds like it's against God. like diametrically opposed to God.
If you want to cover the really straightforward consent stuff, it is, hey, people have personal autonomy. If you don't know a person, and hey, at Burning Man, I understand spending 5 minutes with someone can make you feel like you've known them for 8 years. I understand that. But if you don't know a person and haven't already figured out your physical intimacy, ask before you touch them. The great thing about Burning Man is there are people who want to touch you, and there are people who want the kind of touch you have to provide. If you would like to spank someone, there are tons of places where people who want to be spanked show up.
They line up to
for
be
spanked. So don't spank random people's asses on the street.
That's the pull quote. They line up for spanked.
You can absolutely get your ass spanked or spank an ass.
Or be trussed up in any way you want, or want to truss someone up.
With just a little bit of effort on your part. Do not assume.
Don't assume. There are a bunch of people who are happy to share touch with you out there, but it is always, always important to check in with your words when you don't know someone terribly well. They might not like to be touched at all. They might have a hurt rib and don't want to hug. They might all of these things. So just check in before you randomly start touching strangers. Honestly, a lot of them like to be touched. It's a great place for touch. We get to touch more there than we do in other places. But because of that, we need to be even more generous and careful about figuring out where each other's consent is. Great. So this is one really quick side note that's just from me, and this is just to people who are socially sexual. If you guys are swingers or open or poly or non-monogamous, whatever, you just like sex, it's great. Don't be a fucking creep. Please. Please don't be a creep because you make us all look bad. Don't be aggressive. Don't pursue someone super hard. Just don't be a creep. Look, if you tell people who you are, they'll come to you if they're interested. But just don't be a pressury creep. It is okay for people to not be sexual. It is okay for all of the forms of sexual expression, and yours is not the best. Everyone gets to choose their own, so don't be a creep.
And if touch and intimacy and contact and sex is what you're looking for at Burning Man, there are spaces that will make it easy for you to find. Do a little research in the what, when, where. Look at the map. Go to big theme camps and look at the boards out front. You will find that there are places that hold orgies, that there are places that are kink-centric, that there are places that just provide intimate touch or casual touch or healing touch. Don't go to spaces that are not appropriate for these sorts of behaviors and try to make them what they're not.
If you have any confusion whatsoever on how to be sexy with people in public, go to the Bureau of Erotic Discourse. They have like 90-minute long trainings on Playa. They're super fun. They tell you all about consent. They tell you how to get laid, I believe. If they don't, they can come on this goddamn podcast and tell us how they don't. But the point is, they've been teaching people how to be sexy on Playa for years, if not 5 years, if not decades at this point, and they're a resource that you should probably tap.
Woke up Saturday morning with an outlook mighty bleak, but I made a date with my girl Maria. See, I know that we're bound to meet. Now I gotta get my whole life together, 'cause I ain't gonna waste that sun while it shines. No FOMO ain't on my menu for today, and if it were, it'd be a goddamn crime.
So I was actually driving a guy home from a volunteer event yesterday, and he did say that he'd never been to a music festival, but he said Burning Man's like a music festival, isn't it?
You may have this impression yourself. A lot of people have this impression. So we're going to do a little section now called Ditch These Expectations. This is going to be a little bit about what Burning Man isn't. So you're not going to come into Burning Man expecting things that just aren't there.
I mean, it is a little targeted at those of you that are virgin burners that have been to other festivals. There's a bunch of other festivals you may or may not have been to, and if you've been to them, they might have set expectations about what Burning Man is, because if you have no idea, it looks similar.
Yeah. What Burning Man isn't is a music festival. It's just not. We're a festival in that we're a temporary event in an open space, and that's what our permit reads. But we're not a festival like Coachella. We're not a festival like Bonnaroo. We're not a festival like Lightning in the Bottle. We're not a festival like anything else except Burning Man regionals. There's no lineup. There's no main stage. Nobody is booked by Burning Man to play at Burning Man.
And in that same vein, we're nothing like Rainbow Gatherings. I don't know if you guys have been to Rainbow Gatherings. I know someone in this room has been to Rainbow Gatherings.
I have maybe been to something analogous to a Rainbow Gathering.
It's just, hey, it's also not like that.
Yeah, that's true. You're not going to be fed at the communal kitchen. You're not going to get to dig a hole in the ground and poop in it.
Please don't dig a hole in the ground and poop in it.
Oh my God, why are you walking around with a trowel?
Sometimes you dig a hole with your glow stick. But Burning Man is not a hippie gathering. Burning Man is an art event. It's about experimentation. It's about expression. It's not a prayer for peace.
Are Rainbow Gatherings a prayer for peace?
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
that's what
God
damn it! Maybe less shouty, D-Day.
I pulled away from the mic like a goddamn
I
professional.
meant for your child. Great. So
Burning Man is not a resort. There are no employees, and all labor is gifted by volunteers.
When you run into rangers or people behind the counter at the coffee shop,
or your greeters, or the people checking your car at gate, or the people who build it before you get there, these people are all volunteers, and you should treat them with love and respect because they came out there to make this thing for you.
If they're telling you you can't do something, they're not telling you can't do something because they're a sack of dicks. They're telling you can't do something because it's been tried and true tested over the past 25, 6, 7, 8 some odd years, and like that shit will get you injured or killed or your car broke.
And if you really want to get the most out of this event, you should become one of these people. Volunteering for a department or with a giant art project is one of the most gratifying things you can do at Burning Man.
Assimilate. You can be a part of too.
The last thing we want to talk about in terms of your expectations is you may have heard that Burning Man is a gift economy. And on hearing that, you may have thought, oh my God, what gifts can I bring to Burning Man? And then you went out and bought like 50 toenail clippers or something.
Toenail clippers ain't bad.
It's true. I actually I picked a bad example.
You really did. I would sometimes kill for toenail clippers out there. Did my favorite gift that my camp brought one year is all headed by this guy named Damien, was called Minty Fresh, and it was just a station that was full of tiny toothbrushes and tiny tubes of toothpaste and little portable mouthwashes. So if people came by and didn't have those things, and also a spit bucket and stuff so they could brush their teeth right there.
Okay, that is valuable as fuck.
Right? Isn't that a great gift, even though it is purchasing things?
It kind of is.
That's brilliant.
What we're getting at here is that when we say it's a gift economy, we're not telling you that you need to bring out things to trade for other things. It's not barter.
It's not a present economy, first off.
Present economy. That is a difference.
Yeah, don't bring out toys for people unless it's a super cool toy that can be used in like a really neat artistic way out there. Think about gifts as in gifts of effort or gifts of art or gifts of being participatory. But gifts don't mean that you're plying what you have in expectation that somebody is going to trade their shit for what you have. This isn't a barter economy. We are expected to give freely of ourselves and of the things that we brought in our radical preparation for the event for the community.
And what that means is that you can expect what is at Burning Man to be there for your enjoyment. If you've gone into a bar and they've given you a drink, they're giving you a gift of a drink. You don't owe them anything except your full participation in this delightful culture we're creating.
And not being a dick.
And not
Yeah,
being a
and
dick.
please don't be a dick.
Nobody be a dick, please. So now we've got a couple of resources for you that you can access online and on Playa to help prepare yourself for Burning Man. The first is an article on a website called Read About Sex. That's a man's name.
It's a pun.
R-E-I-D. Yeah, it's a pun. Read About Sex. And it's an article about preparing your relationship for Burning Man, because Burning Man can be a super stressful place for new relationships or old.
It can just be the end of your relationship, or the beginning of the end of your relationship, or the death card from the tarot, which doesn't mean death but does mean change in your relationship.
It can be the nail in the coffin or the icing on the cake. It can be all kinds of things, but what it will be is intense. So you should prepare yourself. The article is on, like we say, Read About Sex. It's REID aboutsex.com. And then it's /relationship agreement conversation.
We'll link to these in the notes attached to this. What are those called? The notes?
Show notes? The description of the episode?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have this in the description of the episode.
Or you can just like rewind this over and over again and try and type it out.
That's read, R-E-I-D, the completely standard way of spelling read.
Then there's also this great website that is just chock full of all kinds of advice about all facets of Burning Man, called T is for Tegan. It's T-E-A, the drink is for Tegan.
That's also a pun.
That is also...
I am learning a lot about puns today.
Yeah, that might be a pun. It's a play on words. It's something. And that URL is burningman.tisfortegan.com. It is super awesome. It's just chock full of info.
And if you want to follow her on Twitter, she's following me on Twitter, so you can find her if you follow me on Twitter. A3RD_day.twitter.com is how Twitter works.
That is definitely not how Twitter works.
We also have the Virgin Letters Project is a resource.
Which is maybe the coolest thing on here. It's an opportunity for you, a Burning Man virgin, to get a nice piece of mail just for you. All you have to do is, once you're on Playa, get yourself to Black Rock Spatial Delivery, which you can find on the handy-dandy map they'll give you as you come in.
And that's spatial, like special, like the way that Church Lady used to say it.
Sure. Wow. That is the 90th reference we've had.
It's a real stacked one.
Episode. Yeah.
Spatial, like space of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get yourself on down there, and they will give you a letter written expressly for you by a previous burner of some shape or flavor.
And if you are a not virgin, you should also go to the Virgin Letter Project and sign up to write a letter to your past virgin self, which can then be transmuted into a new version of a completely different shape and type than you.
And you can find them both at Black Rock Spatial Delivery and online at virginletters.com.
And in the show notes, which we will have them in if we remember to put them in there, which we will because we're professional podcasters.
I don't need your rhythm. I don't need your rhyme. I got some moves of my own, yeah. I got a good heart, a clear mind. I ain't gonna worry. I ain't gonna die. I got some faith in my brother, and we gonna work it out. So can I get a soul? Can I get a soul clap, clap, clap? Can I get a soul? Can I get a soul clap?
So this is a question that I wanted to ask you guys. So there's an idea, if you're unfamiliar yet with the Burning Man culture and stuff, there's a vague floating idea of the 11th principle. The idea being that there's an 11th principle, but they never tell us what the fuck it is. I have one that is in my heart, but I have one that I suspect. I think it is a really
I've got
fun...
two as well. My flippant one is mystery.
My flippant one was surprise.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
High five.
high five. Because in
Okay, recording tables are hard.
you can't high five over them.
Not this one.
It was the saddest attempt, guys. They were a solid 4 inches apart.
That's fine, but we stopped after only like 3 seconds because
I love mystery and surprise because you couldn't say it, but it would be a great 11th principle. I think the thing in thinking about the 11th principle, as you as people are going for the first time, are going to be looking at this culture for the first time, you're going to be participating in this culture for the first time, there are still things about this culture that are undefined that you can figure out that are part of the soul of the thing that we are doing. It is very discoverable, and you are going to find it, and it's going to be different for each and every one of us. And so I just wanted to ask D-Day and Rex and myself, apparently, about what our personal ideas of our 11th principle are.
See, I don't know that I've got a serious one. My pithy one that I'm just going to stick with is radical agency.
I like radical agency.
Yeah, that's good.
Everybody at Burning Man is expected to be fully autonomous, fully realized, fully engaged, and to treat others the same way and expect from others the same way. Everybody handles their own shit.
There was one that I saw on a sticker from Greeters, so, it's not going to be that good. But they had the 11th principle as radical honesty, which I don't think is true at all. But, I can see why that would be someone's 11th principle.
It could be, but it would have to be radical honesty in an artistic sense.
Ecstatic honesty.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Nope.
ecstatic honesty.
Ecstatic honesty.
That's
Werner Herzog would agree.
Okay, that is now my official answer. Ecstatic honesty is the 11th principle.
What's yours, D-Day?
I think play.
Play.
Play is really good.
Play is great.
Burning Man, there was a point before we were expected to have everything handled and to be the person that was always thinking about, what comes next and how to pay the bills and pay attention to traffic laws because if not, you'll die. And knowing that you're going to die and being able to just be imaginative and be a part of the game that everybody else is playing and exist in that alternate space. For a lot of people, they don't get the opportunity to play make-believe all the time. And if they do, they're playing make-believe with kids. And this is a city that we make in the desert that comes from the dust and goes back to the dust, where you can use it as your tabula rasa stage and go out there and be the amazing person that you've always wanted to be. And if you're fucking savvy enough, you can bring that back to the society that we deal with the rest of the time, with all of the darkness that's there, but knowing that you're capable of a lot of things that you maybe wouldn't have gotten around to as quickly, if at all, as you can when you're fucking around on Playa. It's some important fucking around on Playa. It's some real important fucking around on Playa, or else it wouldn't be so important to the Silicon Valley culture down in Silicon Valley.
Oh, yeah.
Or they're a bunch of navel-gazing pricks.
A little from column A, a little from column B. Beth, what's yours?
Well, so mine, I usually describe it as sex positivity, but I kind of want to describe it in a slightly different fashion, which is...
Cum fascist. I'm a cum fascist on Playa.
Cumbertarian.
It's a degree of radical acceptance, basically personal acceptance. It is about accepting who you are. When you're out there, you face a lot of challenges. It's the most fun thing ever, but you're also going to have the worst time ever for a small percentage of time.
Oh, yeah, you will take a sledgehammer to the wrist.
I hate it every morning.
So it's a lot of feelings right up in your face. And I think that there's this tremendous learning about yourself, especially if you're going for the first time and you've never been out there. There's this tremendous learning about yourself. And I feel that learning is the 11th principle. So it'd be like
self-discovery.
Yeah. And that to me is really linked to
self-expression.
Self-expression and sex positivity in general, because when you figure out your expression in the world and accept it, it becomes so much easier to accept everyone else's expressions. So in self-acceptance, you're accepting everyone else to some extent. I think that for you folks that are going out there for the first time, one of the cool things that it does is blows open your idea of yourself. And
oh my God, yeah.
I invite you to accept the version of yourself that you find out there.
Unfortunately, I found my way to the person that I am that I like best through Burning Man. And I hate that about the event. I don't like being vulnerable to somebody else's conception of a thing.
Yeah, it is maybe a little embarrassing to be a full bore drank the Kool-Aid burner who's had that radical transformative experience.
I didn't say transformative once. I didn't say it once. Just say it. Go ahead.
Yeah, Rex owes us both $5.
Anyway, listeners, what's your 11th principle? Think about it. Keep that in your mind as you're experiencing a transformative thing in the desert.
Yeah, it's not gonna look. It's not gonna transform you in any ways that you think it's gonna. So, like, let go of those.
My alternate 11th principle is give it a day. You know that really transformative experience you just had where you plotted out the next, 5 to 15 years of your life during that trip?
Give it a day.
Yeah, whatever it is.
That's strong advice. Don't make any life-changing decisions at Burning Man.
Yeah, like maybe you got some head trauma and you've been vomiting for 5-6 hours straight. You probably don't need to be life-flighted to Reno yet. Give it a day.
All right, virgins, that's about all we've got for you. We're going to...
And that's probably plenty, honestly. And if you need more, we've got 18 episodes of Accuracy Third that you can and probably should have already downloaded if you're listening to this on the way to Playa.
23 episodes.
If you are
Is that how counting works?
If you are interested in more about the culture of Burning Man, you should listen to our podcast, because the culture of Burning Man is the people who make it. And we interview those people and talk to them, and you should be those people. So when you get back from your first year, contact us, and we will be delighted to hear your rantings and ravings.
You can follow us on social media all over the place. We've got a website at accuracythird.com.
You can find our podcast on iTunes or Stitcher or any of
Google Play,
any of the places that have podcasts. You put Accuracy Third in the search, and hey, that's us.
And we are going to leave you with the sage advice of the people that we interviewed this season about what they think first-year baby virgins should know.
I want to congratulate you all on making a very smart decision, coming to one of the coolest things there ever was.
Getting down with my midtown brothers and sisters. Feel the groove as we move out onto the floor. With all the socialites who know how to party, and that's clearly what we all came here for. So we play until the night goes. We play until the night goes. We play until the night goes. We play until the night goes away. We play.
You definitely want packs of tissues, like travel packs of tissues. You're always just going to want tissues for something, or like a paper towel. You're at the porta potty and there's no toilet paper. You got playa dust crusted up your nose, you're always going to want to wipe something. Someone gives you something to eat and you get food all over your hands. I've always found.
No paper towels in the potties, though.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, but that's why I said tissues, because they're not paper towels. But in case you need a paper towel, you have
a tissue.
A source, yeah.
Oh, it's like a small paper towel.
Exactly.
Tissues.
Paper towel.
Another thing I always carry around is a Ziploc bag to stick my trash into.
That's smart, especially if you're generating all sorts of snotty Kleenexes.
Yes, and to just put my food wrappers in, or if you find moop. Those are things that are always in my Camelback, though.
And then when that Ziploc bag is full, you can just toss it out as you ride down the street.
Just throw it into that
You've
can.
collected it for resto.
Yeah, exactly. I throw a buck in just to make finding that bag worth it. You know.
Oh, that is devious.
And every 10th bag gets a 20.
Thing is, you don't even need to put a buck in there. Just like whatever pills you find lying around, toss one of those in there for them. By the end of resto, like, they're short on drugs too.
Yeah. So, just toss in an aspirin into each one.
Mm-hmm. That might actually tip them over the edge.
I actually think resto has the opposite problem. I think by the end of resto, they're like, what the hell are we going to do with all these drugs?
Can't flush them down the toilet.
Well, that's where they'll end up eventually.
Yeah.
With some stomachs and kidneys in between.
Read the Jackrabbit Speaks. Go to the Burning Man website. Don't spend 20 minutes there. Spend a couple hours, and not just all in the pictures. It's really amazing. But it's really amazing to look at the pictures and see what people create, and maybe that'll give you some inspiration. But dive in a little deeper. See what the heart of this thing is before you show up, because you'll get a lot more out of it when you realize what the 10 principles are, when you realize how people have interpreted that in different ways and how they've contributed. And that might not be your particular thing, but you'll find a way to contribute inspired by other people's contributions, for sure.
Awesome.
I'll just go right back to
Don't
participation.
be a dick.
Oh. Yes.
Unless you're asked. No.
Don't be a dick.
You know
but
what?
Feel free to perform a
I
bit.
think get out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of your comfort zone. So if you're 25 years old and you're all about the EDM and you've come to hear these 5 DJs, let's say, you could spend all your time at 10 and 2 and out in the DMZ with all the big sound systems and the fancy DJs and all the beautiful 25-year-old people. You could do that and have a great time, I'm sure. But if you really want to be a burner, go back into the city, find Hair of the Dog, find Spankies, find something else that's like a bunch of old, crusty, 50-year-old lesbians or something. Whatever's not your thing, go find it.
Hang out with the 35-year-olds at
And-
Orgy Dome.
And sit down with those people, because I think that's what's wrong with the United States right now. People who are in their little space and they don't recognize that everybody else has a different experience. So go put yourself somewhere where you feel uncomfortable for a minute. If violence is not your thing, go hang out at the Thunderdome for a little while. Check that out.
Oh,
Or
yeah, that'll challenge you.
if you're not used to being alone, take yourself out in deep playa and sit by yourself for a couple hours. Find an art piece and cuddle up with it for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Just do something that's not what you would normally do. Get out of your comfort zone. I think that's how people can become better burners.
I think it took me 3 or 4 burns.
Was that a chicken?
No,
That was a
a dog,
Or
but
a
she's kind of a
turkey?
chicken. She's definitely a turkey.
Hershey? What was that?
Marley wants nothing more than to get as tangled up in the cables as she possibly can.
Yeah. I also want to say to newbies, don't buy a bunch of shit and bring it and give it away. Don't do that unless you've made it yourself or you have a really good story to go with it.
Yeah, tchotchkes, not cool.
Not so much.
Not so much.
good.
No, and if you're going to go down that road, and I really advise you don't, if you're going to, make it something super useful like chapstick.
Yeah, chapstick,
Right,
or
or
something
little
that's like
flashlights
handmade.
or- yeah.
Oh,
you know.
handmade gifts, whether they're garbage or not, I always appreciate the thought.
Q-tip.
We've got a whole wall of handmade garbage gifts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's not all garbage. It's just shit we don't want.
It's true. It's not all garbage.
I guess my advice would be to take the experience of going to Burning Man as like a test week in your own life
of like how much can I actually physically create with my own hands that's of value to other people, so that I can be fully integrated in community and feel like I'm being in reciprocal relationship, right? So don't fucking stop at Walmart right before you go in and buy everything that you need. Bring it there, mostly hoard it to yourself to take care of your own survival and hope that people are going to give you some cool free shit while you're there. Like leading up to the burn, like create things with your hands, actually craft things, see what you can find in the natural world, bring things of value that you actually brought forth into the world, share them with other people, and then see what comes back to you. And like really take it as an example of, okay, when I remove myself from the city I live in or the town that I've always grown up in or whatever, come into this new community, how can I be of value to other people so that value is given back to me and we can create something, integral that way.
All that. And I guess like not have any expectations of anything that happens at Burning Man, and be open to going with like, maybe you're gonna wake up and it's gonna be like incredibly hot and you might be like cranky, like just be with that. Like I like connect with like, just allow this like humanistic state of just like survival to really like teach you, and how you can think of how that extends like in this experience and beyond. Also take care of yourself like while you're there, as well as like being open to like explore, which is a week to have these adventures. Like really take care of yourself and like know when to like say no or when to say yes. Feed yourself well, drink water, like be mindful. The elements are tricky for sure, and like especially if you're going for the first time, like be prepared for that. I think it's important to be prepared for that, and like have fun, like have a really good time.
That's great.
Guys, thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Give us some bike tips.
First thing, and some people are going to say, "Oh, I'll never do that," but get a single-speed beach cruiser. I saw basically the least complications you can have on your bike, the better off you are, the fewer things to go wrong. And folks would come up there with mountain bikes. They'd bring their regular mountain bike, which is, they're used to and everything. But that has 4 cables, 2 sets of brake levers, 2 sets of brakes, 2 derailleurs, a freewheel on the back or cassette. And there are so many places on those bikes for things to go wrong. I can't tell you how many people's burns were nearly wrecked because they broke their rear derailleur off. And it wasn't even them breaking it.
Things that are looby get cloddy. Things that are cloddy bind up. Things that clod up snap and break.
Yeah. People just, their bike gets knocked over to the right, or someone knocks a bike over into theirs, breaks a derailleur.
Mm-hmm.
And, with certain bikes, I could do a derailleurectomy. I could turn it into a single speed as long as the bike doesn't have vertical dropouts. And so many really nice bikes have vertical dropouts, which is great when you've got a derailleur, but it makes it really hard to turn the bike into a single speed. Brakes, you don't need that much braking action up there. You don't need that many gears to choose from. I've been riding the same cruiser, which I've customized over the years. I've got a stainless steel chain on it, so I never have to worry about my chain rusting.
Oh, nice.
In between years. I've had the same chain on there for 8 years now, and nothing.
You don't do anything when we get back. It's not like you clean the bike after.
No, I roll it behind the house and there it sits until next year, and then I ride it again. I've literally done nothing to that. Put in puncture-resistant tubes. Bring spare tubes that fit your bike, and bring spare tubes that fit other people's bikes, because those are like currency up there. But yeah, simple bike. As far as prepping your bike for the playa, have some lights, please. I'm going to dark shame you guys now.
I think it's appropriate with cyclists.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a pro tip from me. I have a light on. I carry a water pack just because I don't like to carry a bottle around. I don't like things in my hands. I like them free. Plus, I can keep goggles and mask and tissues and whatever else I need in that backpack. So I just put a light on a pendant on the front, and I always have a light on my backpack. And my bike has no lights, but I'm lighted. So if I'm on foot, if I set off on foot, off of my bike, if I get on my bike, I never have to think about, there's no lights on my bike to get stolen. I carry the lights on me.
I go the opposite route, thanks to D-Day Engineering. My bike has a telescoping pole on it with a lantern. So when I park it, I extend the lantern.
Yes.
Then nobody is just going to ride away with my awkward, overly lit bike, and I can find it from anywhere.
Yeah, and that's actually for finding your bike. I've never had that problem because I park it very selectively. Like if I'm out and about, I often don't even park it. I'm just out riding, and then if I'm out exploring, I'm walking, a certain area. But yeah, it's a great idea to have those telescoping lantern poles.
It really came in handy burn night.
Yeah, well, I don't even bring a bike out burn night.
Well, we haven't even been to burn night.
I know, but even
that is the sign of
that's quaint.
burner.
They're gonna burn the man.
even those last few years that we were going out there, I wouldn't bring a bike.
And kind of in the same vein, if you had a piece of general Burning Man advice to give to a virgin, what would it be?
Bring enough water. I don't know, it's hard. It's worth going. You have to prepare properly. It will not change your life for you. It'll only reflect you your highest self. It's like a big karmic mirror to a certain extent. If you're a terrible person, you like to cause fights and do bad things, that's what's going to be shown back to you. That's what's going to be your Burning Man experience. You can't change that fundamental aspect of yourself. If you want to have it be a spiritual experience, it'll be a spiritual experience. If you want to have it be a sex experience, it's probably the biggest sex festival in the United States, even though we like to pretend that it's not. All these things are very segregated, right? If you want it to be an engineering experience, it'll be an engineering experience. If you want it to be
that's funny. For a long time, I wanted it to be a sex experience, and it was just an engineering experience.
I mean, sometimes you don't know what you're actually looking for. But, you sort of find at Burning Man things that,
Or sometimes you're young and awkward and wouldn't know how to negotiate your way into a sex experience if you had the opportunity presented right to you.
It encouraged me to learn how to ask for things. You got to ask for what you want. Or how can, people know that you want this thing? Sometimes people don't even envision things. You have to be the one that speaks things into life. And your thoughts produce your actions, and your actions make up your life. So, things are really bad right now, and it's dark, and it's easy to, be depressed, right? But
what are you talking about? We're making America great again.
I mean, you can't dwell on those things. You can't be the predator looking behind you at, the things coming at you. You got to look forward at the things that we want to do, because when things fall apart, all we can depend upon are ourselves and our community. And we have a great autonomous community. We can keep building on that and be as autonomous as we want to be. Create our own communities, our own solutions, right?
So, interesting linguistic fact. Every culture on the planet puts the future in front of you and the past behind.
Except the tuba.
Except for the ones, yeah. They feel like the future is creeping up on them from behind to surprise them, and the past is in front of them because it's the thing that they can see.
That's right, because you can't see what's behind you. That's why the past is in front of you and the future is behind you.
It's funny how much more sense that makes.
It's the most loving society I've ever been to. Burning Man defines my concept of love, relationships that you value, that you continue to have. It doesn't matter what form they take, because we're all just humans. We love each other.
Precipitation, no.
Rain.
Snow.
Participate. Yeah. That's going to take your experience from thinking it's a music festival to knowing that it's much deeper. You can't explain it very well. I try. I went to Halcyon's talk about explaining the 10 principles in an elevator pitch because I thought maybe I should be able to do this as I take in these newbies and indoctrinate them with this culture. but sounding like a cult when you say this kind of thing. Taking these newbies and
It's only bad if you think cults are
forcing
bad.
them to drink the Kool-Aid. True. I mean, we are a custom cult.
Yeah.
We should be the #1 promoter of cults. It is. We didn't get clever at all. We just went straight to the point, and we were like, cults, dress up and be in our cult.
I like that. Sometimes it's good to be on the nose.
Yes. But yeah, the participating is going to help you really get the most out of it.
Excellent.
And put yourself out there and say yes to really weird things, and you can go have that what the fuck moment.
The biggest lesson that I've learned going out there year after year is to have no expectations, to continually flush your expectations about what's going to happen to you in the next 5 minutes, let alone tomorrow, let alone on burn night. And that has never failed to cause me to have a better time. And the converse of having very intense expectations for what's going to happen to me has never failed to fuck it up. And this is very hard to do. It's not easy to, it's not a common thing to even want to do, to just sort of forget the future and not prepare or plan and just let things happen. But that's what you have the freedom to do out there. And I think I learned this lesson more poignantly than anywhere else by poorly acculturating newbies I was bringing earlier in my life as a burner.
Oh, tell us about that, please.
Well, just like my little brother or the woman who would later become my wife, I brought all these people, her sister, I brought all these people to Burning Man for the first time that would be the most important, or already were the most important people in my life. And obviously, I've never shut up about Burning Man. I mean, I do. I think that I talk about Burning Man like 90% less than I did 5 years ago. But at the time, I would just really never, ever stop talking about how it was going to change their life and how they have to come with me. And here's what we're going to do. And I found this blinky thing on Amazon that you should buy. I just created this very detailed picture of something that I knew deep in my soul was going to happen to them. After about 3 years was when I started feeling like I knew what this was all about, and I could tell anyone who was going to come with me was going to have a good time, and here's why, and here's what we're going to do. It doesn't take very long. It's Wednesday when all of the realities of being there have set in, and all of the fantasies that you had before getting there have evaporated.
But to be fair, Wednesday is like 3 months in.
Right. Yeah. But you still have like a year to go.
Yeah.
And
if you haven't cried by Wednesday, you're dangerously dehydrated.
Right. Exactly. I've had conversations on like Wednesday of the burn. I'm going to leave. I'm going to go do my thing now. No, this is the person talking to me. They're like, you're a great tour guide and everything, but like, I'm going to go to this over here. That's not the only way, but certainly I learned my lesson this way of seeing how differently everybody that I brought into this experienced it and found their own different ways in. And my brother's now like my favorite burner in the world, and my wife is my other favorite burner in the world. She Skyped in to rabbinical school from a couple of years ago, and it was like dusty behind. It was hilarious. One of the moments of which I was the most proud of her work as a rabbinical student. But like they couldn't be more different for me as far as how Burning Man affects them, and now I know. When I have to write myself about Burning Man, about what to expect and how to acculturate new people, I make sure to do away with creating any particular expectations. But also more and more, I find it more effective to find more and more people, different people who are not me, to paint that picture for people and to change people and to bring in new voices as often as possible, because this is the only way to give somebody a sense of what's going to happen to them without creating a particular picture in their mind.
Oh, that's a sweet thought. That's kind of exactly why we're doing this.
Yeah, exactly. You just hear everybody's story and kind of find your way through that forest yourself.
You can come for me blazing guns if you dare. Spread your lies and obsess about me, I don't care. I get up every day, ready to play.
sticking all the way through our audio VAG. I hope that you're slightly more prepared for this thing that is impossible to prepare for. And extra special thanks to Koi Wolf and Midtown Social for allowing us to use their awesome music. You can find out more about them on the audio page of our website, accuracythird.com. Have an incredible burn, you guys. It's gonna be great. Do we want to go on to the ditch expectations?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Don't dig ditches on playa. It's not your goddamn playa. There's no stream that you've got to reroute or nothing. I'm sorry, what? Ditches? Ditch these expectations. Right.
Yeah.
Mark.
And if you've looked into Burning Man at all, you can see that there's a lot of ways to engage sexually out there. Not necessarily with other people, but lots of classes, lots of seminars, lots of workshops. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of ways to get in touch with your sexuality and your sexual expression, and there are people who are showing up at those things that feel similarly to you. They're great ways to find, if you're excited about engaging in your sexuality out there, please do. That's great. Just be really aware of consent and be very generous with the level of space you give people before checking in for consent.
It's true. You're going to have much better results if you do.
Absolutely.
And if there isn't going to be a human centipede massage camp on Playa this year, and you don't have a theme for the theme camp that you want to have on Playa this year, that's a super easy one that I'm just throwing out right now.
Human centipede massage camp.
Yeah.
But if you just say
interpret
a circle
it
massage,
as you will. I'm just giving you the name.
Circle jerk massage camp. Can you imagine? What if you could pick in the circle, you know how hippies all sit around and massage each other's shoulders?
Right.
What
Yes.
if you could pick whether you're getting a shoulder massage or a hand job?
So I think the way to do it was you would have two concentric circles.
Oh.
And you're each rubbing the person in front of you with one hand and the person next to you with the other.
Oh no, that's hot.
Oh,
that
yeah.
works really well.
I think hand job left hand, punch fisting right hand. Also, just as a consent aside, if you wouldn't punch fist someone without asking them for their consent first, just don't do any sexualized thing or anything that could be construed as a sexualized thing without asking first. You know it's probably really sexy if someone already thinks you're cute and might want to have sex with you, is somebody saying, hey, is it all right if I tell you your ass is cute? And if they say no, fucking drop it.
The idea of a spontaneous city does seem an odd one, but that's exactly what turned up in the Nevada desert over the Labor Day weekend. A city with the curious name of Burning Man. Whatever you want to call it, city or festival or community or event, it's been going on over a decade. And for most of that time, word of each year's location has been quietly passed on the internet. In fact, some people believe Burning Man is the physical manifestation of the internet, a kaleidoscopic, no-holds-barred cultural experiment. And just as the internet is interactive, so is Burning Man. The idea is that there are no spectators. In fact, the press passes they hand out say simply, "This pass entitles you to nothing in particular. Have a beautiful experience of your own," which is what everyone else is out to do. Thousands of people doing the strangest things and getting along, and that in itself is cause for celebration. So we thought you might like to see up close what some people have called a proto-apocalyptic, hippie, neo-pagan freak fest.
2 hours north of Reno, in the vast emptiness of the Black Rock Desert, a town is rising. The streets and cafes, neighborhoods and police, and thousands of residents yearning to burn the man. This is Burning Man, a loosely organized, frenetic explosion of community, creativity, and chaos. For 12 years, this 5-day alternative art festival has been steadily growing, now drawing somewhere between 8,000 and 15,000 people each summer, people who come from all over the world for a world of reasons.
I used to be really shy, really reserved. I had trouble meeting people. I thought if I came out here in such an open atmosphere, I could really be myself.
This is just a wonderful celebration of creativity.
It sounded like it was the last cool thing to do.
It's a weekend away from ordinariness.
Today, the man stands 4 stories tall. He is erected at the start of each festival and quietly watches the community around him grow. And grow it does. Camps are set up with themes that range from guys who like drums to croquet to, well, whatever this is. The point is, people can do or be or wear or not wear whatever they like. So, if you want to take the world's largest nude photograph, go right ahead.
Okay, got it, thank you!
We create just enough order so that this spontaneous, naturally occurring process called culture, which is born of the interactions with people, that no one can plan and that no one can control, will begin to happen.